You, a poorly educated person, are not worthy of my son. Cut ties and leave the venue immediately. That's right. Michael is an elite. Someone like you has no business being involved with him. I can't believe you didn't even go to high school. I wonder why Michael invited someone like you to his big day. Oh, but since you're here, leave your gift at least. Not that it'll be much. Well then, I'll leave the gift here. Oh, and if we're cutting ties, I'll also cancel the account with a $150 million deposit at your bank. My name is Jason. This is what happened at my best friend Michael's wedding. Ever since I was young, I hated studying and always avoided it. My parents worried about me and tried various methods to spark my interest in learning, like educational drills with anime characters, riddle-like materials, and popular fun classes, but I rejected them all. Being full-time employees, my parents didn't have much time to oversee my studies and were at a loss. Though I was terrible at studying, I diligently did chores at home to help my often absent parents. Since elementary school, doing laundry and cleaning were not only my duties, but also my joy. It was fun to see the room getting cleaner, and being praised by my parents made me feel useful and happy. In middle school, I started cooking as well. Since my days in elementary school, I've been intrigued by cooking, starting with basics like pancakes and soup. Due to my parents' diligence, we had sufficient resources, allowing me to dive into my culinary interests by acquiring cookbooks and sourcing the necessary ingredients to experiment with various recipes. This sparked my enthusiasm for household tasks, making them more enjoyable. In particular, meat and potato stew became my signature dish. Initially, I used store-bought mixes, but my quest for improvement led me to experiment with various seasonings and prioritize ingredient quality. My commitment even resulted in receiving a pressure cooker as a birthday gift, enhancing my cooking tools. As exam season approached, despite my reluctance towards studying, I recognized the necessity to study to prevent failing. Therefore, my parents suggested, during exams, we can take care of the meals, maybe pick up some ready-made dishes or fast food. But my love for cooking far outweighed my interest in studying, so I said, leave the cooking to me, and even prepared make-ahead meals to freeze over the weekends. Seeing my dedication, my parents must have realized that academics weren't my strong suit and decided to let me focus on household chores as much as I wanted. Although I detested and struggled with studying, I didn't particularly dislike school itself. Spending time with my best friend, Michael, made my days quite fulfilling. Michael was the eldest son of a family that had a tradition of serving as bank presidents, truly dedicated to his studies. He was the complete opposite of me. Michael was always told by his parents, "You must go to a prestigious university and carry on the family legacy. Therefore, prioritize your studies and choose extracurriculars that don't interfere too much." Despite the expectations placed upon him, Michael consistently excelled in his studies, always achieving the top rank in periodic exams. Even though we were complete opposites, Michael was incredibly kind-hearted. To ensure I had time for cooking at home, he would assist me with my homework during school hours, patiently explaining the solutions to problems I struggled with. Taking this as an opportunity, we started spending more time together, and during one of our lunch breaks, I noticed that Michael was eating fast food every day. When I asked about it, I found out that Michael's family, all working as bankers, were too busy to prepare meals, so he was given a $5 to buy his lunch. However, Michael, not a big eater, found the salty flavors not to his liking and was struggling with it. So, I suggested, "How about I make lunch for you?" Michael hesitated, saying, "Really? But it seems like a lot of trouble." But when I insisted, "Don't worry about it. I already make lunch for my parents as well, so adding one more isn't much of a hassle. It's my way of thanking you for all the help with studying, you know." He agreed. Also, it was decided that the $5 he received for his lunch would be given to me as compensation for the ingredients. Although I initially refused, Michael insisted, and I reluctantly accepted. I enjoyed making lunch every day and watching Michael's reactions as he ate. As I got to know his taste preferences, the lightly seasoned meat and potatoes I prepared were particularly to his liking, receiving high praise. Since dinners at his home were mostly pre-made from the supermarket due to his family's late returns, I occasionally brought over some home-cooked meals to share. I only met Michael's mother once when she happened to come home early. She bombarded me with questions, asking, "Oh, are you Michael's friend? Welcome, since you're his friend. You must be good at studying, right? Which high school are you aiming for?" When I honestly told her that I wasn't good at studying and hadn't thought about high school at all, she seemed displeased and muttered, "Why would he be friends with someone like him?" Seeing her like that, I thought to myself, what a scary lady. Just when Michael chimed in, "I've told you about him before. He's the one who makes lunch for me and sometimes brings dinner. Remember, Jason." Michael's mother then gave me a thorough once-over and said with a smile, "Well, thank you for that. It's indeed important to stay healthy, and I appreciate it. They say teaching also contributes to Michael's growth, so please continue to do so." But her eyes didn't smile, which was frightening. It seemed she knew about the daily lunches I prepared, and she seemed to appreciate that, but the intensity in her demeanor, as if saying, "Don't associate with someone who can't study," and the way she scrutinized me like she was scoring me, made me uncomfortable. I continued to make Michael's lunches until we graduated. And then, on graduation day, as Michael and I were saying our goodbyes, his mother approached us. "Hello, you're Jason, right? Thank you for the lunches all this time. By the way, have you decided on a high school yet?" she asked, somewhat condescendingly. I replied, "It was a tough decision, but I've decided not to pursue high school and to start working, even though I'm still inexperienced." Her face instantly turned stern, almost as if she was about to scold me. Feeling intimidated, Michael said, "Jason's future has nothing to do with you, Mom. Hey Jason, they're taking a class photo over there. Let's go." And he pulled me away. Michael went on to attend the top local high school as planned, and initially, under pressure from my parents and teacher, I intended to continue my studies. However, having never taken my studies seriously, I failed even my safety schools and, in a panic, applied to a private high school with a low entry requirement, which I got into. But in my haste, I hadn't researched this school well, and it turned out to be expensive compared to others, with high tuition fees and numerous donations. I didn't want to pay so much just to continue studying, something I hated, so I convinced my parents otherwise. Although they could afford it and suggested it would be better for my future, I had made up my mind not to go. Seeing my determination, my parents gave up. And so, I entered the workforce right after middle school. For 15 years since then, I worked tirelessly. Unlike studying, I found joy in working hard and being useful to someone. It made me happy when customers thanked me, and it was a joy to be praised by my boss saying, "Well done." Even though there was overtime, it didn't feel tough at all. I was truly a workaholic. Even on my days off, if I heard there was a shift available, I would volunteer to work. I loved my job that much. One day, I received a wedding invitation from Michael. I was as happy as if it were my own celebration and immediately replied that I would attend. And then, on the wedding day, the venue was incredibly luxurious. There were massive bouquets, especially white roses, adorning each table. The wall decorations were intricate, evoking the grandeur of a medieval European ball. After entering high school, Michael progressed smoothly to a prestigious university and was reputed to be outstanding in college. I had heard rumors of his success even while working. Michael, with his inherent intelligence, made remarkable achievements as a banker and was recognized for his skills, taking over his father's position as the head of a local bank much earlier than planned. with his father becoming the chairman. This luxurious venue must be a testament to Michael's hard work. Speaking of the wedding, I guess Michael's parents will be attending too. I remember back in middle school, when Michael's parents would insist he study constantly, even when he was sick and should have been resting. And I had the impression his mother didn't think highly of me. This is making me a bit uneasy. While I was thinking about this, right as I entered the venue, people who seemed to be Michael's parents noticed me and approached. "Are you Jason, Michael's friend from middle school?" Michael's father asked, somewhat intimidatingly. I hesitated before answering, "Yes." Then they immediately followed up with, "We were surprised to hear you weren't going to high school at the graduation ceremony. But what happened after that?" I responded, "As I've mentioned before, I've been working since graduating from middle school." Then, in unison, the two of them let out a big sigh, saying, "Ha ha ha. You, a poorly educated person, are not worthy of my son. Cut ties and leave the venue immediately." That's right. Michael is an elite among elites. A person like you, who's basically a failure as a person, shouldn't be associating with him. Really, to think you didn't go to high school. I wonder why Michael invited someone like you to such an important occasion. But since you are here, leave your wedding gift. It's not like it's going to be a significant amount anyway. I was at a loss for words at their outrageous remarks. But they were Michael's parents, after all. I didn't want to make a big deal out of it, but feeling a mix of discomfort, I retorted, "Well, if you insist on cutting ties, I suppose that's the only option. Oh, this is your wedding gift. Please accept it. If we're cutting ties, I'll also be canceling the $150 million deposit I have with your bank." But they just laughed, clutching their stomachs, and said, "What? $150 million? What kind of joke is that? You're funny. It's hilarious that you're missing so many screws in your head." That's when Michael arrived. I told him about the treatment I received from his parents and said I was going to leave since I had already paid my respects and didn't want to cause any trouble. "Michael, you really need to choose your friends more carefully. This guy, not only is he a shameful failure, but he's also claiming to cancel a $150 million deposit. A loser and a big liar. It's just too funny. It's so pathetic it's almost pitiable." Hearing this, Michael's face turned pale instantly. Ignoring his parents, he immediately said to me, "Jason, I'm so sorry for making you go through this just for coming to celebrate. I know it's hard to reconsider the deposit thing. My mom and dad will be leaving. Please, I want you to stay at the ceremony. I promise you won't regret it." Seeing how earnest Michael was, I decided to stay for the time being. Of course, I couldn't possibly ask Michael's parents not to attend their own son's wedding, so I said there was no need to send them away. I spent the ceremony trying not to look towards Michael's family seats as much as possible. Initially, I thought I wouldn't be in the mood for celebration because of his parents, but as the ceremony began, I found myself getting emotional at the sight of my friend who had grown into such a fine person. The bride's thoughtful gestures and the way she carried herself made it clear she was a wonderful woman. I sincerely hoped they would be happy. At the end of the ceremony, when Michael began to read a letter to his family, everyone expected an emotional story. "Thank you all for gathering here today. I have something modest to share with my parents." Everyone expected an emotional story to unfold. However, Michael began, "Firstly, I deeply apologize for any discomfort or inconvenience caused by my parents' belief in the supremacy of education and banking careers, which has upset various individuals over the years. Earlier, they insulted my dear friend Jason, calling him an uneducated lowlife and a liar. Jason, I am truly sorry for the extremely rude behavior of my parents. Additionally, as a banker, I apologize for the disrespectful treatment our bank has shown towards Jason, a valued client who has entrusted us with a significant amount of assets. I am fully aware of the audacity of this, but I sincerely hope to continue our business relationship moving forward." Michael's announcement at such a joyous occasion took everyone by surprise. The entire venue was abuzz with murmurs. Unwavering in his resolve, Michael continued, "Furthermore, my parents have committed numerous acts of misconduct over the years. Here is the evidence." The projector, which had just been showing the happy beginnings of the bride and groom, now displayed evidence of their wrongdoing. They had accepted bribes from valued customers, approved large loans without proper checks, and increased interest rates, among other serious ethical breaches as bankers. The venue, already buzzing, now erupted into a louder commotion, especially from the seats occupied by business associates. Michael's parents turned pale. He looked at his parents once before declaring, "Effective today, my parents will be removed from all their positions at the bank. Furthermore, to prevent such incidents in the future, we will conduct a thorough internal investigation and commit to restructuring the bank to ensure its integrity. I kindly ask for your continued business and support," and he apologized once again. Michael's parents, pale and shaken, collapsed to their knees, unable to face reality, their heads bowed. Despite not having done anything wrong, I was moved by Michael's defiance of his own parents and applauded him. My applause led others in attendance to join in, and with that, Michael's wedding came to a close. In fact, after graduating from middle school, I immediately sought to turn my passion for housework into a career and joined a housekeeping service company, where I worked for about 10 years. My years of honing my housekeeping skills were apparently on par with those of industry veterans, and my colleagues respected and accepted me as a professional, despite my junior high school education. Working in a housekeeping service wasn't just about doing chores. It often involved significant communication with clients. Especially during the summer, when parents were at work and their children were home, I was often asked to take care of the kids and prepare their meals. After playing with the children and completing the household tasks, I would report back to the children's mother about the day's activities and how the children were doing. It was a bit embarrassing but very rewarding to be thanked for taking care of the children, on top of the housekeeping, by the clients. I loved the routine of working, communicating with clients, and being appreciated for my efforts. On days off from work, I enjoyed doing housework at my parents' home, making my hobby essentially my job. I had no girlfriend, so I saved up quite a bit of money, and after 10 years, I left the company to start my own housekeeping service. My boss, Alex, who had been very helpful, joked with me, saying, "Well, losing a talented person like you is a real blow. And to hear you're starting your own company. Looks like we'll have more competition," but he sent me off warmly. Starting my company was a challenge, especially since I knew nothing about management or accounting, but I was determined to learn everything necessary for my business, including bookkeeping, marketing, and law, often seeking help from my hired secretary. I was amazed at how my social experiences enabled me to grasp studies I couldn't during my childhood. I had a solid understanding of the housekeeping service industry from my previous job, so I created manuals to ensure even beginners could quickly start working. I also pondered over the training content, considering it might be beneficial to have a training facility. I loved listening to people, so even as a CEO, I made it a point to hear out every employee. In the beginning, when the company was just a small team of about 10 people, it felt like a family. This approach resulted in an extremely low turnover rate at my company, leading to a successful start in the industry. Although I no longer visited clients' homes as the CEO, I cooked in the employee cafeteria, which served as a relaxing hobby for me. Initially, the employees were hesitant, but they soon came to love my cooking, proclaiming it the best and frequently using the cafeteria. Eventually, our service expanded beyond typical households to cater to affluent clients, and it seems that word of mouth spread our reputation. Suddenly, we saw a surge in wealthy customers. Moreover, we were introduced by ultra-wealthy clients to not only provide household services but also secure major contracts with nursing homes and care centers, This was the catalyst for my company's rapid growth. While not all funds were surplus, we managed to deposit $150 million in the company's name at Michael's bank. In fact, when starting the company, my savings were insufficient, so I had sought a loan from Michael's bank. I had asked Michael for a favor, citing our old acquaintance, but he conducted a thorough investigation. Eventually, we were deemed eligible for the loan, and I realized that it was Michael's sincerity and seriousness that allowed him to become a bank president at such a young age. Since the establishment, we've maintained a relationship, and now we are considered highly valued customers. Though I was irritated by Michael's parents, Michael himself was not at fault, and his desperate efforts to revive the bank were compelling enough to make me want to support him, leaving the $150 million deposit untouched. When we meet at the bank, we are the president and the bank president. Elsewhere, we are close friends, making sure not to mix personal and professional matters. After that wedding, Michael's parents were indeed stripped of all their bank positions instantly. It's too cruel to abandon your own parents. It's all because of that loser. Okay, just let us work as bank employees at least. They seemed to plead with Michael, but he rejected them outright, and they were completely ousted from the bank. This story spread not only within the bank but also among the neighbors, leading to days filled with whispered rumors. They became uncomfortable and moved to a different region. They are still fixated on being bank employees and have gone for interviews at banks in other regions, but the banking community is already well aware of the incidents caused by Michael's parents. It's unlikely that any bank would hire them. Michael mentioned that this was an opportunity to completely sever ties with his parents, leaving them without anyone to rely on. I wonder how they will manage in the future. Well, it's none of my business, I suppose. Meanwhile, Michael and his wife, Sophia, are supporting each other and dedicating themselves to their work at the bank. Sophia, who used to work at the bank's reception, captivated Michael with her grace, leading him to pursue her relentlessly. Initially, she avoided him due to fear of being involved with the bank president's son, but after a year of persistent effort, they started dating. Now, she seems to be managing Michael's schedule as his secretary. Being very beautiful, she often faces advances from business associates, so Michael keeps a watchful eye. He hopes that wearing wedding rings now that they are married will mitigate the situation, but it remains to be seen. The issues of fraudulent loans and interest rates at Michael's bank were covered in news and magazines, and the word bankruptcy loomed in my mind. However, it seems that many major clients were invited to that wedding, and most of them, including myself, after seeing Michael in action, wanted to support him. This led to the accounts not being closed, and instead, they offered encouragement and support. Although it was a struggle to get back on track, Michael's innate intelligence and ability to think ahead have led him to devise new strategies one after another. By cleaning up the bank, it seems that customer trust is actually on the rise, seeing the bank as more reliable now. I'm sure that with Michael at the helm, it won't take too long for the bank to recover. Several months have passed, and things have settled down quite a bit, so I've started visiting Michael's new home from time to time. Michael and his wife, Sophia, seem to struggle with household chores, so I often drop by saying, "Housekeeping service to the rescue," and help them out. It turns out they're regular users of the housekeeping service my company offers. I'm thankful they're such valued customers. Whenever I visit, I make sure to cook them one of my specialty dishes. At times like these, I usually go for beef stew. I'd skillfully chop potatoes and carrots into rough pieces, slice the onions, and cut the meat into bite-sized pieces. Just like that, I'd quietly proceed with the cooking. Michael seemed quite surprised watching me cook, perhaps because it was the first time he'd seen me in action. Sophia was also watching and said, "You're really efficient." Feeling a bit shy from the praise, but also a bit nervous because they were both watching me so intently, I somehow managed to finish making the beef stew. When I served the stew to them, Sophia was surprised by my cooking and said, "I've never had something this delicious before." Michael also complimented, "As always, delicious. This gentle flavor really hits the spot." Feeling happy that they enjoyed it, we had a great time during the meal. I suggested to Sophia, "Beef stew is quite versatile. You can turn the leftovers into curry or even croquettes. I made a bit too much, so feel free to try some variations tomorrow." Then Sophia said, "The original stew is so delicious. I'll try making it into curry since you've suggested." The other day, Sophia's sister, Mary, came over, so I cooked for her too. Mary watched me cook intently and then offered, "Let me help," and started cutting vegetables. It seems Mary, unlike her sister Sophia, has recently taken a keen interest in cooking and is really enjoying it. Mary and I stood side by side in the kitchen, savoring the meal we had just prepared. "It's incredibly delicious," she exclaimed, moved by the taste and begging me to teach her how to cook. "It's all thanks to your help," I responded. "I only chopped vegetables. I've only recently started cooking, so I can do basic things like cutting, boiling, and frying, but I just can't seem to get the seasoning right," she confessed. After much persuasion, she ended up coming over to my place to learn cooking. Despite being teased by my employees for my domestic skills, suggesting I'd make a good housewife, I had to remind myself that I am, after all, a man. "May I come over to your house?" Mary asked with puppy dog eyes, making me catch my breath, but I reminded myself it was just for cooking lessons. Catching a glimpse of Mary, I was taken aback by her soft, curled long hair and her glossy pink lips. I caught my breath again, but then scolded myself. What am I thinking? Get a grip. I quickly invited her over to my place and introduced her to the ingredients, seasonings, and cooking tools. Mary was diligently taking notes, and she looked incredibly charming. As I taught her how to cook, she improved rapidly, and a few months later, I would even get unexpected visits from Mary at my house, asking, "I made this at home. Would you like to eat it with me?" We spent our time like friends, or perhaps it was just my one-sided crush, but I eventually gathered the courage to ask her out on a date, and she accepted. It was a bitterly cold winter day. On our way back from the date, with Christmas approaching, the town was lit up with festive lights, and there seemed to be more couples around than usual. Standing in front of a large Christmas tree at the station, I took the plunge and confessed, "Mary, I've really enjoyed the days we've spent cooking together. I want to keep cooking with you, and occasionally, like today, go out on dates. Would you be my girlfriend?" It was a bit embarrassing to confess in front of the holiday lights and passers-by, but Mary blushed slightly and agreed. Since then, we've even had new recipe development dates at home. When a recipe turned out well, we shared it with the employees of the home service company, and it was a big hit with the clients. Our company has grown significantly, now with a considerable number of employees. Recently, we've even received feature requests from TV programs and magazines like Inside the Buzz, a closer look at home concierge services. But the most surprising development came when someone suggested publishing our recipes in a book. An employee had impressed a client with one of our recipes, who turned out to work for a publishing company and proposed turning our recipes into a book. Since the development of these recipes was not only my effort, but also greatly due to Mary, I immediately consulted her. Excited, she agreed, saying, "It's amazing that our recipes could become a book. Please, let's do it." So, we decided to take on the project, and now we're not only working on developing recipes, but also on writing the book. Meanwhile, I've also been secretly looking for the engagement ring. I fantasize that by the time the recipe book is complete, we might share the same last name. In today's world, where even high school graduates face scrutiny, only having a middle school education is quite rare. Indeed, having a higher level of education might make success more attainable. However, I believe that educational background and success in society are directly proportional. In fact, without focusing on academic qualifications, I entered the workforce and have now established and managed my own company. Some might consider this hindsight, but among successful individuals, there are certainly those who started with just a middle school education. Just like Michael's parents, who despite their excellent academic backgrounds, fell into a trap by being arrogant about it. I understand that to some extent, it's inevitable to be concerned about educational background. Yet, I wish everyone would not dwell on academic qualifications so much and instead pursue what they are passionate about, leveraging their strengths in society freely.